Jets linebacker C.J. Mosley stunned everyone earlier this week by opting out of the 2020 season. What he said about it yesterday, that's probably the biggest football decision I've made in a long time, probably since I picked what college I'm going to. So that's a book I got to start writing pretty soon, figure out what's the next step, because there's a lot of negative things people can say as far as me not playing 2 years, and there's a lot of positive things that can be said. I'm out all year, so I have this time to mentally get better, physically get better, kind of readjust and kind of find that flame again. Now, last year, C.J. Mosley played in only 2 games for the Jets. He was a force of nature in Week 1 against the Bills as the Jets built a 16-0 first-half lead that they inevitably would squander because that's what the Jets do. But one of the reasons why that happened was Mosley got injured.
Right.
And he was gone most of the year. And look, we don't pay enough attention to what these guys go through. And even though you can look at what he said and say, oh, he's taking advantage of the opt-out potential to address other concerns or other issues, you can also look at it and say the pandemic concern is that last straw that breaks the camel's back.
Sure.
Where you've got a lot of things you're worried about. You're trying to rediscover your passion. They just traded Jamal Adams, for crying out loud. How good are we even going to be this year? You throw everything into a blender, and that last factor of worrying about playing football in a pandemic may be the thing that gets you to say, you know what, I'm going to conscientiously take a step back this year, take this year off, I'll come back next year, and I'll be much better next year than I would have been this year.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he's thinking.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't doubt that. You know, I understand it. You know, yeah, it's a middle linebacker playing football. You know, played in Alabama. We know that Nick Saban likes to coach his guys tough. Their physical practices. You know, plays for the Baltimore Ravens. You know they're tough. Physical, everything they do there. So yeah, his body has, taken a beating, certainly. And I feel for linebackers or most football players from that standpoint all the time. The thing that's interesting to me here is, not that it's a cop out or a money grab, but this to me is the case of something we've talked about the last few weeks. A guy that first off is in a contract situation where he's kind of got the team, by the kahunas, for lack of a better phrase there, right? He's got them. So they don't really have anything they can do here because they've offered him and paid him a lot of money and have a lot more money that they do owe him. So there's that standpoint. But I just think it's the comments at the end that, as an ex-football player here, and again, like we just talked about, beat up body, yes, the virus, I'm sensitive to all that. But I'm just telling you, as a football player in a locker room, when I read that kind of thing, I go, ooh, this guy sounds like he just might not be ready to play football this year, period. When you hear mentally, physically regain the flame, what did I say to you in text yesterday? I said, well, this sounds like Rocky 3, like Mick is trying to tell Rocky Balboa, like, you became civilized, kid. You're not ready for this kind of battle anymore, and that's the kind of guy that we've been talking about who's going to get talked about in the locker room. Everybody's going to be cool to him. Nobody's going to say anything publicly, but I do believe it's this type of situation where an organization, the coaches, the players, they're going to give him the side eye next year when he walks in the locker room. They're going to be like, yeah, and we've paid you a lot of money. You've got $19 million so far for one game. And then, last year, so that I'm just saying that. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm sensitive to it. I get it. But just as a player, I think that's what's going to go through a lot of guys' heads.
And then he goes out on the field and he pops somebody, and the side eye becomes the wide eye. Well, that's when they realize C.J. Mosley's still got it. That's what it'll be.
That's what it'll have to be. You're exactly right. That was what will change the tide because he's going to be there because of his contract and everything. They're kind of stuck with him no matter what. He's not going to be one of those guys that they can cut next year. But you're right. That's where it'll all be judged on. If he can come back and, like you said, after a year off, be better and flying around the field and all that, it'll be forgiven very quickly. If not, and he's kind of faltering or, a little slow in his game, the side eye will continue and maybe more.
Here's the key, though. They didn't have him for the vast majority of last season.
Right.
If they'd had him all year, it would be a much tougher adjustment. What's the change? We got used to playing without C.J. Mosley last year, although it would be nice to have C.J. Mosley while you're in the process of getting used to playing without Jamal Adams.
Right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.